One Federal Heights police detective was in charge of more than 90 cases last year. Big caseload for one detective. A memo from the DA now says the police department failed to properly investigate serious felony cases. Now, as reporter Courtney Yoon joins us now. And Courtney, the memo blames it on a lot of cases and few employees to look into them.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Corey. Back in April of this year, the interim chief expressed concerns about the department's work. One of his biggest concerns was the number of cases of sexual assault, particularly on children, that had been open for a really long time. Prosecutors found the department failed to follow up on a case involving a student that had been sexually assaulted. That case could have been sent to the DA for a decision on charges. Prosecutors say they found a lack of investigation into serious felony crimes and a lack of follow-up with victims of serious crimes. From 2020 through 2022, the police department had 2 detectives assigned to about 600 cases. Former Denver DA Mitch Morrissey says for any department, that is an incredibly high number.
You could give them 120 hours of overtime a week and they couldn't get this job done. This is an impossible task for the 2 detectives that were asked to do all the follow-up with victims, to do to collect evidence.
While the department struggles to manage the workload, it's frustrating for people seeking justice and their loved ones waiting for answers. Federal Heights is making an effort to reach out to victims involved in the cases mentioned in the DA's report, according to the city manager.
All right, Courtney, thank you.
It is now 6:03 on your Wednesday morning, and this morning we know the King Super shooter is pleading not guilty, but there's no question that he was the one who pulled the trigger.
There's no doubt that he is the killer, he is the murderer.
It was a tough day for the families of the 10 people killed at a grocery store 2.5 years ago. They watched as the man who killed their loved ones at a King Soopers in Boulder pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. A detective told a judge the shooter killed 8 people in just 69 seconds. Bob Old's niece, Ricky, was one of them. He learned that she stepped toward the door moments before the shooter ran in.
Why would someone do this? Why was it that King Soopers? Why was my niece working at that time? Why did my niece step towards the door? There are so many whys that just circle in your head.
Now it will be up to a judge or jury to decide whether the shooter was insane on that day in March of 2021. 9 News psychology expert Dr. Max Wachtel says there is a difference between the shooter's mental state then and now.
The competency to stand trial deals with how the person is doing now. What is their mental state like now? And are they competent to proceed to trial now? A sanity evaluation looks back at the time of the incident and what was their mental state at that time. So it's more of a retrospective evaluation.
Now, Dr. Max says the insanity defense is quite rare, showing up in about 1% of cases each year. He says only a quarter of those end with a person being considered legally insane. That trial is due to start in August.
Today, a judge will hear closing arguments from the group of voters trying to keep former President Donald Trump off of Colorado's ballot. A group of voters in Colorado are arguing the former president should be barred from holding office because he is accused of inciting the attack on the Capitol. Trump's attorneys and the Colorado GOP argue keeping the former president off the ballot is election interference. Judges in 2 other states have already made up their minds. Yesterday, a judge in Michigan said Trump should not be dropped from the ballot on those grounds, and a judge in Minnesota dismissed a similar lawsuit last week. The judge here in Colorado says she'll have a verdict before Thanksgiving.
This morning, we are getting a better idea of when Trump's election interference trial in Georgia will happen. The district attorney there says she expects the trial will overlap with Election Day next November. She says it could even stretch past Inauguration Day in 2025. She says she doesn't take dates like these into account when deciding which cases to bring. Trump's lawyer has not commented on that timeline.
In Washington this morning, the Senate could vote as soon as today on a funding bill that would avoid a government shutdown. The House approved Speaker Mike Johnson's plan last night. The 2-part House measure would fund some government departments through January 19th. Others would get funding through February 2nd. It got more support from Democrats than Republicans. Now the bill goes to the Senate. If they approve it too, President Biden will likely sign it. They have until Friday at midnight to avoid a shutdown.
Also on Capitol Hill, some animosity between lawmakers may have gotten physical. Republican Representative Tim Burchett is accusing former Speaker Kevin McCarthy of elbowing him in the back while he was talking to a reporter. Burchett was one of the 8 Republicans who voted to oust McCarthy from his speakership. McCarthy denies hitting him.
Got elbowed in the back, and it kind of caught me off guard because it was a clean shot to the kidneys, and I turned back, and there was Kevin.
I guess our shoulders hit because Burchett runs up to me after. I didn't know what he was talking about. Some reporters asked me. I did not run and hit the guy. I did not kidney punch him.
Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz, who also voted to oust McCarthy, says that he is filing a formal ethics complaint against McCarthy over that incident.
New overnight, the Israeli military says it raided Gaza's main hospital. Israel says Hamas has a command center underneath and may be holding hostages there. Patients, doctors, and displaced people have been sheltering in the hospital because of nearby Israeli airstrikes. That hospital has been without electricity for days, and dozens of patients, including newborn babies, have died. A new report from Human Rights Watch Group says Israel's attacks of hospitals in Gaza should be investigated as war crimes.
Even if personnel are unlawfully present in hospitals, active combatants, the hospital can only be attacked if it's used to commit acts harmful to the enemy, and only after effective warning is issued. One of our concerns about the warnings the Israeli military has issued is that they're impossible to comply with. Telling people to leave when there's no safe place to go and no reliably safe way to get there is not effective.
The Israeli military says it sent medical supplies and food there. Meanwhile, Hamas is blaming both Israel and President Biden for the raid.
Today, President Biden is planning to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Biden says that he hopes it will help steady the relationship between the U.S. and Rama. Other U.S. leaders say that they don't expect a lot of tangible outcomes from this meeting. They say that the purpose is really just for the two presidents to talk and communicate with one another. The last time Biden spoke face-to-face with Xi was a year ago.
This morning, a community in Ohio is remembering 6 people, including 3 teenage students who died after a major bus crash. The charter bus full of students was rear-ended by a semi-truck. Then the bus went up in flames. 57 people were on board. Last night, hundreds of people came together for a vigil to remember the lives lost.
I'm just in complete shock. I mean, being in class with some of these kids, it's crazy what they went through, especially for the ones that passed. I mean, I feel sorry for their families.
School will go on as normal today, and the district will have counselors available for students. The NTSB is now investigating.